Buenos días a todos. Good morning to everybody here. I'm happy and pleased to be here in Orlando. Well, I came from DC last night. As you may be aware, what's happening in Washington is not different from what's happened in 2019 about having possible government shutdown that actually will take in place tonight at midnight. And that's a sad situation when you don't have any expectation of when there's going to be an agreement between House and the Senate to approve several appropriations that were actually approved during the week, but still there's not any compromise to having a continuous resolution to fund the federal government in many agencies. So that's something that will keep many of the members. I know that Soto was coming today, but as a representative of a territory, I just can vote in amendments. I cannot vote in the final passage. I cannot vote in motions. I cannot vote in resolutions. So that's part of the inequality that we're discussing when we discuss the issues of Puerto Rico and abroad. Happy to be here. I'll try to be concise. I'll try to be brief because all of you know the issue of Puerto Rico status. And the invitation I received with my dear friend Darren Soto, and I say dear friend, although he's a Democrat, I am a Republican. He represents this area. He represents Florida, and since he arrived in Congress, we come from the same class in 2017. We've been working together many issues. Every time I file something for Puerto Rico, Darren Soto is my original co-sponsor, and I appreciate that because sometimes legislation coming from the territories are not being considered, and every time he's not just been a co-sponsor but a champion on the issues that we discussed together. Same thing happened now with Representative Mike Waltz, Congresswoman Maria Salazar, who are very strong allies of the Puerto Rican cause in all fronts, not just in terms of status. So having said that, the invitation I received was to discuss where we are in the Puerto Rico Status Act, what happened during the last session, what is the difference between HR 1522 and the current bill that we submitted for having a permanent solution in terms of the territory status of the island. What are the expectations of approving or seeing those bills coming forward? So I'll try to summarize. I mean, where we are coming from. The discussion about the status of the island has been there for almost 100 years. We saw very different opinions from the Federal Supreme Court regarding Puerto Rico as a territory of the United States, in fact, a colony of the United States. And we saw the last decisions regarding the oversight board on the island giving Congress supreme power to do whatever they want with the future of the island as a territory. To that end, we've been having multiple local plebiscites on the island, discussing options. Most of them, the opposition always criticize the results, and there's always a flaw in terms of bringing why not to recognize the results of the last plebiscite. And while I was in the State House, I was there from 2002 to 2016. We took the results from many of those plebiscites and we copied many of the provisions that were put in place by Congress to that mission of Alaska and Hawaii. And we decided, let's not do a new process for the territory of Puerto Rico. Let's do the same thing that's been done for the rest of the territories before becoming part of the Union. So we put in place a plebiscite in November of 2020 with options, statehood, and statehood yes or no, which is for me the simple question. There's no any backdoor options. Simple yes or no. And with that answer, more than 655,000 people voted for statehood. And statehood got more votes than the governor of Puerto Rico. The statehood got more votes than me. Statehood got more votes than any political party or any politician on the island. And for me, that's a supreme consensus on where the people of Puerto Rico stand regarding statehood. So that yes, we received that yes as a result of the majority of the people of the island, more than 52%, 53% of the vote. And in response to that clear mandate, I began drafting a bill. That bill was HR 1522, which proposed the same plebiscite on the island, but this time with a federal mandate. Not a local legislative proposal, but federal. We have never had that opportunity. Congress has never given us the opportunity to have a plebiscite or a referendum which is binding and non-territorial. And through that end, we proposed that bill. Many, at the same time, Congresswoman Nidia Velázquez from New York, she presented a counterpart bill in opposition to the statehood, including free association, among other options. The problem with that bill that we opposed, Darren and I opposed, as many others, was that bill was putting a complicated way in a convoluted process, including non-constitutional options as part of the status offer from Congress, including constitutional convention, letting a few members of the House and the Senate decide the future of Puerto Rico and draft whatever they want, even if those drafting proposals were contrary to the U.S. Department of Justice and to the Constitution of the United States. When we saw that, I literally said, this will never gonna, it's never ending. We're gonna be fighting each other. Nothing is gonna be approved, and here we are again, a few more years with nothing happening in Congress. So then I called Congresswoman Nidia Velázquez and I began meeting with her, asking without any press, without any. It took us a while, more than 8 months of conversations. And I was telling her, I believe in statehood. I believe that's what the people of Puerto Rico want. I'm the one living there because I travel every week. I work in DC during the week and then back on the weekends to the island. And the people of the island are suffering. We can talk about federal funding, but those federal dollars are for emergency purposes. They're not going to be there forever. So we need to have our own economy, and our economy is always going to be crippled when we are not part of the many of the federal programs that actually work with poverty and giving people the opportunity to move. We're talking about Social Security income, SSI. We're talking about SNAP program. We just got a block run, which is called NAP. So we need to come to Congress every time. And those are just a few. We're talking about child tax credit, earned income tax credit, and many other tools and provisions that help people move away from poverty and actually allow them to succeed. We don't have those options on the island. So why Puerto Ricans are moving in thousands to Florida, Texas, and many other states? We're losing population. Coming from 4.2 to 3.2 in less than 15 years, that gives you a direct signal of what's happening on the island. And the people who move, and you are a great example of that, you don't move to Florida because you got better beaches here, or they don't move to New York because there's better food there. The reason are many. Is a health condition, family opportunities, better quality of life, and even studies, and the payment of your salary in your work. Those are just a few options of why you decide to move. So we began those conversations, and both of us, I won't say it, I convinced her because it was a participation between the two of us. We agree on the basics. What were the basics? We need to have a congressional mandate that should be non-territorial. That was the most difficult because at the beginning she was believing in the status quo. She moved from that vision to embrace free association, and she wanted to put independence as an option. And for me, I said, let's keep it independence and statehood. Let's not deal with the. She wanted to have the negotiation of a free association pact in the bill. So we came back and forth, and we agree on having non-territorial options. That for me, that was the biggest assessment, the biggest change, and what I think is historical about the bill that we drafted. The second issue was we need to have something binding. Once the Congress approves that bill and is approved by the president, we do not need to come back again to see if Congress wanted it or not. And that's one of the issues that many people in Congress was not supportive of the bill because many of those members wanted to have the final vote, the final opinion after the people of Puerto Rico vote. Binding, self-executed plebiscite was the third biggest issue, and we compromised on those three. So the drafting then took several months because we went page by page, paragraph by paragraph, with and without staffers. And then the definitions was the biggest issue. So we took the Department of Justice recommendations. Remember, both bills got 2 hearings in the House. So we took the position from many law professors. We took the positions of the Department of Justice, among others, and we implemented those at the final bill. So we took more or less something from each bill and we get a compromise. And why a compromise? The Democrats were in power in the House, and I wanted this to move. I wanted this to happen. So we make a compromise. Of course, I would prefer statehood yes or no, like the rest of the states. I'm not going to be hiding about that. But I wanted to do something, and literally, that was the only way to get a compromise between Democrats and Republicans, and we did. And we approved that bill, which is historical because of the compromise, because of the content. And now I truly believe that that will set the pace for the rest discussion about status, because we got something that was achieved at one of the chambers of Congress. And what happened with the Senate? Senate is always low. We always know that. But we have those discussions at this time in the Senate side. There's a bill, Hendrick bill, which is statehood yes or no, and we're talking with several Republicans as well to try to get a compromise. Many people said that why you have Republicans opposing the compromise bill, and I will say that is an issue of statehood because it's not. Actually, I do have members, Stefanik, the chair of the conference, that said, and in a public statement, written statement, that she was opposing the compromise bill because the independence option was included in that bill. And instead of having Puerto Ricans part of the nation, that bill was putting Puerto Ricans far away of becoming a state. That was her perspective. Same thing happened with Mike Wallace. Same thing happened with members of the Senate. I mean, we do have different opinions from members of Congress. Some of them say why we should give American citizenship to people that are born in a free associated states if that is the option selected by Puerto Rico. Why the United States need to compromise U.S. citizenship if you are becoming an independent country. You got other members in the Senate side saying why the United States need to pay for federal programs in Puerto Rico if you become an independent nation. And I believe those are serious concerns that could be possible under the compromise bill. But I'll tell you this. As a stateholder, I was criticized because I put independence as an option. But I honestly believe, that we need to look forward for non-colonial, non-territorial options. And those are the ones that are given. Those are the ones that are constitutional, and we must respect that. And let the people choose. Let the people of the island choose. We should not be afraid of the people of Puerto Rico selecting and deciding our own future. That happened with Alaska. That happened with Hawaii. There are many questions regarding many areas of how this is going to happen, how long it will take. I personally believe, although we do have the bill already filed, we are still discussing many other options about what should be included, but not getting far away the principles of non-territorial, non-binding. For me, those are very important in order to get something done. Um, so right now, the last conversation was last week. We're having those in the Senate side uh, because that's where always everything dies. And you got people submitting bills that are going nowhere. That are even discussing enhancing the current colonial situation, which is not possible, which is the Supreme Court of the United States has established not one, twice, more than three, four, five times that is colonial, that is territorial. And some people will still be living in that era. I believe that statehood for Puerto Rico will come. Statehood for Puerto Rico will happen, and I believe it's a matter of time. And everything I can do and have in my power to support and make that transition happen the soonest is what I'm going to be pushing alongside all those people who believe in statehood, who believe in resolving the unfinished democracy of the United States having a colony, the oldest colony in this part of the hemisphere. I do know that you may have many questions, so I will let you do it, and I can go further in any other areas that you may want to discuss. They told me to be brief, so I'm trying to
Thank,
fulfill that desire.
thank you, Congresswoman Gonzalez. As we established in our procedure, there are some index cards that have been handed out with their corresponding pencils. If you have a question for the Congresswoman, please write them down so we can begin the process of reading them out loud and sharing the response um, live. Or if we can't answer it today, then there's the option reserved by the Congresswoman to respond via email. So make sure to put in your name and email address in your index cards.
There's I will be waiting for the index cards, but there's some questions about why using Alaska and Hawaii process as a model. Well, those are the last territories to enter the Union as a state. And both of them at the beginning, and this is something that nobody talks about it, but I think we should. At the time, people believed that Hawaii was becoming a Republican state and Alaska was becoming a Democratic state. So that was the reason they came in pair, right? And I'm always upset when they discuss the issue of including Washington D.C. as a state when the Constitution is completely different in the treatment of Washington D.C. and the territory of Puerto Rico. I believe that Puerto Rico could be a purple state. It will depend on the candidates. It will depend on the platform. Why? Because same as the same way happened here, rural areas are more conservative, more urban areas are more liberal. So I believe, in the case of the island, you will have a mix. If we become a state having four members of the House, it could be a split decision. It could be 3-1. In terms of having the Senate members, I believe it should be 1-1. Of course, I will be proposing to having two Republicans there. But those are issues that are not discussed in papers, but are discussed among members, right? How that will impact the the balance of power. Let me see. Got three questions here. Will there be? I'm reading a question. Will there be a Senate sponsor for any type of bill to follow for reconciliation in terms of status, or we're talking about as my bill? Yes, yes, we're gonna have statehood yes or no bill, and we're working to have bipartisan support on a compromise bill. So yes, those are the latest. It was a statehood yes or no bill in the Senate during the last Congress, and we're looking to do the same thing. We asked for them to wait until we find some bipartisanship there. and we're still drafting. But Senator Hendrick is the one who submitted the bill last time, and we're working with him as well. I have conversation, of course, with Senator Michael Rubio, Senator Rick Scott, that are always, supporting many of those issues. But it's not been filed yet, but it's you will see it soon. I don't have my glasses here, but ¿usted piensa que la posición de gobernadora tendrá más herramientas para trabajar por la estadidad? You think that as governor you may have more tools or to work for statehood? La voy a contestar en los dos idiomas entonces. La ley le permite a Puerto Rico, a la legislatura, al gobernador, debo decir, convocar hoy a un plebiscito porque se le facultó en el año 2020, luego de recibir el resultado electoral. Eso significa que ese plebiscito podría aprobarse y empujar lo mismo que se aprobó en el Congreso. Eso manda un mensaje bien contundente y mueve la discusión congresional, porque es exactamente lo mismo, si se hace así, ¿verdad? Si se hace lo mismo que el Congreso aprobó con las mismas definiciones, no puede haber excusa para que no se apruebe, porque ya Puerto Rico lo está haciendo. Y es volver a validar. Alaska y Hawái tuvieron múltiples plebiscitos antes de convertirse en un estado, y es una manera de mantener el asunto en discusión en la palestra nacional y en el Congreso. Creo que sí, creo que tendrías más herramientas porque la ley ya está aprobada para eso, no tienes que convocar una asamblea legislativa para eso. Y el gobernador tiene ese poder, de hecho públicamente he pedido que sí, que se apruebe, que lo hagan en conjunto con las elecciones, para que haya la mayor participación electoral y no haya excusa de que votaron unos y otros no votaron. I believe that the governor of Puerto Rico have the power that was vested in him by the legislature in 2020 to order or make a plebiscite on the island, which can include the options that we propose in the federal bill. And those options will reinforce the vision of Congress of providing non-territorial, non-colonial options, and will force again the discussion in Congress. And adding to that, the resources. The statehood for Puerto Rico is the public policy of the island by law. So that means the governor of Puerto Rico can use all that power to support us. We're not doing that. I mean, the island is not doing that. And this is the first time you actually have a mandate of the majority of the people, not partisan mandate, a general mandate of the people of the island who voted across party lines to support statehood. And many other questions here, let me see. This is in Spanish as well. ¿Qué contesta a quienes señalan que en los pasados años usted se ha atribuido el logro de varias partidas de fondos federales, especialmente para la recuperación, que no han sido producto real de su gestión? Me encanta esta pregunta. Me encanta esta pregunta porque cada congresista tiene que empujar y lograr cosas para su distrito. Y así se le juzga en la comunidad que lo elige. Al punto que en el caso de... ¿Are we doing translation at the same time? No, ok. Al punto que cuando se contabilizan los fondos, se adjudican y se hace unas tablas que están disponibles de cuánto se consiguió bajo cada comisionado residente o bajo cada congresista. Entonces, a mí no se me quiere adjudicar el trabajo que yo hice para lograr llevar a Puerto Rico más de 150 congresistas y senadores, funcionarios del gabinete federal, en múltiples viajes semanales cuando los huracanes Irma y María, que no los lleva a San Juan, los lleva a Barranquitas, a Naranjito, a Ponce, a Mayagüez, a toda la isla, para convencerlos de la necesidad. Y no solamente logramos las visitas, logramos la aprobación de los recursos. Múltiples enmiendas que sometí cuando venían los huracanes Harvey, introdujimos una enmienda para que aplicaran esos fondos a Puerto Rico. Por proyectos que no cualifica a Puerto Rico por ser un territorio, logramos también a través de enmiendas. Así que sí, yo logré los fondos de recuperación bajo una Cámara republicana con el presidente Paul Ryan, que me respaldó en todo lo que yo estaba haciendo, aun cuando el presidente Trump no estaba de acuerdo en muchas de esas cosas, firmó los proyectos y las asignaciones más grandes en la historia de Puerto Rico, y luego con una Cámara demócrata, también. Así que me ha tocado trabajar con Cámara y Senado del mismo partido, que fueron mis primeros 2 años, y me ha tocado trabajar con cámaras de un partido y del otro, y me ha tocado trabajar con un presidente de otro partido. Y donde quiera, busco hacerlo bipartita, porque cuando uno es un territorio, uno no tiene el poder como congresista con los mismos derechos del resto de los miembros de aprobar cosas. Tú tienes que buscar la gente que sí puede votar. Yo no puedo votar. Así que mi voz es lo que he estado utilizando durante todo este tiempo y eso lo reconocen los mismos congresistas, lo reconocen los senadores del estado de la Florida, a quienes traigo locos cada vez que hay que buscar, no, se lo pueden decir, me van a ver entrar por ahí y van a decir, no, otra vez ven a pedirnos algo. Y eso me pasa con otros senadores también, así que es dinero que he conseguido, que he luchado y que no me arrepiento de haber conseguido la mayor cantidad de fondos federales en la historia de Puerto Rico, que hasta este momento suman casi 70 billones de dólares en un periodo de 7 años. La asignación más grande del Cuerpo de Ingenieros de los Estados Unidos a Puerto Rico del 1901 al 2016 fue de 1.5 billones de dólares. 1901 al 2016. Y nosotros conseguimos una asignación de 3.5 billones de dólares para el Cuerpo de Ingenieros en estos 5 años. Así que yo creo que hay gente que le gusta ser mezquina en reconocer el trabajo de la gente. Yo estoy acostumbrada a eso, pero yo fui a hacer el Congreso lo que estoy haciendo. Having said that in Spanish, I will say it in English briefly. The question was that if the money that was approved in Congress or the bills that were approved in Congress um, were made by me or pushed by me, or I'm trying to adjudicate federal funding that has been just approved uh, by serendipity in Congress or by many others and not by me. And I will say that many people in the political arena may try not to recognize the hard work that was done by my office, but I brought more than 150 members of Congress, including senators, executive cabinet members, not once, many times on the island, and I brought them to the different towns that were affected by the Hurricane Irma Maria, and then I brought them to the towns that were affected by the earthquakes. And then I brought many commissions. I brought the Veterans Commission from the House and the Energy and Commerce Commission from the House that never before held public hearings on the island to discuss many of the issues that actually, at the end, brought the approval of more than $70 billion during both administrations, and a Republican House, and a Republican Senate, and a Republican President, and Republican President with a Democratic House, and now with a Democratic Senate and a Republican House. So saying each member of Congress has during their term how much money has been approved in their districts, um, what legislation has been approved, what bills are being co-sponsored, and I'm proud to say that it's not just me saying that what we did. National media and the outlets that do the recopilation of all that data for members of Congress put me there as one of the most effective members bringing resources for her district. $70 billion is not a low amount, but I do know as well. We got the worst hurricane in our history with Hurricane Irma Maria. Then we got the earthquakes. Then we got Hurricane Fiona. Then we got the pandemic. So we've been hit by several situations during that time, but we succeed, and I'm proud of the work that we did, and that was the reason I was elected with more votes in 2020. So people adjudicated that. So thank you for the question. Let me see what else. What can we do to help the island increase civic participation? Thank you. You do have the power of the vote. You do can send an email or letter to your member of Congress here in Florida and to your senators. We need that support. And having that perspective is not the same thing with somebody from California called a member of Congress, or somebody from Puerto Rico that you actually here in Florida you can say, I vote for you. I'm your constituent. That's a powerful tool. And we are not used to use it. And we got more than 100,000 Puerto Ricans living here in Florida. Just imagine how powerful that force can be if all of you can text, send, or support the resolution of the status of the island. Either way. I prefer statehood, but I want this to be a final solution for the people of the island. You can also go to the national media that will shed light about the situation in the island, and having this issue coming all over again in national media help the issue to be in discussion. So those are the two areas. And if anyone here want to have an idea of any legislation that can be improved or filed, my office is available to do so. Many times, many Floridians call our office because of the cultural nexus or situation with passports or social security and many others. My office is your office, so you can use it as well. See. The Biden administration appointed Gretchen Sierra Zorita, Associate Director for Puerto Rico and the Territories. Has this had any impact, negative or positive, in giving Puerto Rico a greater voice in Congress? None. I met with her many times. Um, the common response, not just for me, for mayors and legislators coming from the island, is yes, we'll have it. Thank you for bringing this issue. We'll revise it. We'll let you know. And that's it. And that's been my experience. That's been the experience of many members that actually visited the office. It's very different when Jeff Fraro was appointed to do that job, or even Admiral Admiral, what's his last name? I forgot about. President Trump named Coast Guard Admiral Brown to do kind of the same job, and we saw them every time on the island, both of them, every time having discussions, round tables, sending letters, helping with agencies, uh, even getting a lot of the resources that were stuck in many of those agencies coming forward. Thank you. Um, so I will say that personally, I don't feel that that office has moved an inch any of the issues regarding the island. On the other hand, I will say that I did have personal conversations with the president, even when we are from different parties, and he visited the island. And you got other cabinet members that are very active. One of them is the Secretary of Education, which has been very active. So I need to recognize the people who are doing the job. And personally, I believe that he's doing a good job. But there are other areas that you just feel that you are in a flat line. Let me see. In a constitutional convention, eh, can you read it for me?
So this will be the last question. We definitely need to look at this outer schedule. I'm going to try to read this as best as I can because, again, glasses.
But you have yours.
Yeah, but they're not bifocals. They're
Okay.
just so.
Sorry to put you in the
No, no, no,
spot.
no. Is a constitutional convention necessary when the Department of Justice has already said that there are only three options for Puerto Rico: statehood, the current territorial status, or independence, with or without free association?
No, it's not necessary. And the reason for that is that why letting a few people decide the future of an island when people can vote directly? I will never surrender the power of the vote of the majority of the people for a few people deciding. and few people that are not going to be using necessarily constitutional options. Uh, every time I see those enhanced options or trying to give power, one of the issues that the people on the island were advocating was in free association deciding what federal laws applies and what not, what federal programs apply and which not. The recent bill that was filed last week by Senator Wicker, trying same bill that he filed during the last Congress, trying to have an enhanced Commonwealth option, which is again non-constitutional, was saying that the people of Puerto Rico now, today, we can decide if we want to have federal court or not. We will decide what federal agencies can work in Puerto Rico and which not, what federal laws may apply to Puerto Rico and which not. I mean, this is silly. And this is losing our time, and they're not serious options. Among many other things that are included there that are not new, they're not going anywhere, but they try to impact that this is a constitutional status, which is not. And that's the reason every time they go to the Supreme Court, they've been unruled. So I I don't I don't see those options as serious ones, and I believe that the people of Puerto Rico already saw the future, and that's the reason it's continuously supporting statehood as an option for non-territorial, non-colonial status of the island. I want to say thank you again. It was more than 1 minute. I tried to, but thank you, and thank you for gracias por la oportunidad.